Most retirement advice treats Bitcoin like a casino chip. Buy it, hope it goes up. Sell it when you're scared. That's not a strategy. That's gambling with your future. But here's what the smartest holders in their 50s actually do. They don't treat Bitcoin as a lottery ticket. They treat it as an engine. A high-performance engine inside a larger, carefully built machine. And that single shift in how you think about this asset changes everything. Your risk, your sleep, your legacy. Today I'm giving you 5 rules, the exact framework that separates the people who hold Bitcoin confidently near retirement from the people who panic, sell, and regret it for the rest of their lives. These aren't tips, they're structural rules. Follow them, and Bitcoin stops being a gamble. It becomes a weapon in your wealth machine. Rule number 1 is going to reframe everything you think Bitcoin's job is in your portfolio, and most people get it exactly backwards. Here's the single biggest mistake people make with Bitcoin in their 50s. They treat it like it should be the whole portfolio. It shouldn't. And here's why. Bitcoin is not your retirement. Bitcoin is the engine inside your retirement. A car doesn't run on an engine alone. It needs structure, it needs systems, it needs other components working together. The engine is powerful, but it only matters when it's built into something bigger. That's exactly how smart holders use Bitcoin. 3%. That's a solid starting number based on what advisors are recommending in 2026. 3% of your total retirement allocation in Bitcoin. Around that level, no more, no less. At that level, a 10 times move in Bitcoin, which has happened multiple times in its history, adds 30% to your total portfolio, without touching the other 97%. That's not a small outcome. That's life-changing math, delivered with zero recklessness, and if Bitcoin drops 50%, you lose 1.5% of your total portfolio. You barely notice. You don't panic. You don't sell. You let the engine do its job. Keep in mind, these are historical examples. Markets can change rapidly, so always consider your own risk tolerance. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. While some conservative financial advice still says even a small percent is too much, with growing institutional adoption, that view is shifting, and ignoring it could quietly erode your purchasing power. I'll show you exactly how, right after Rule 2. Rule 2 is about you, not Bitcoin, you. Because the biggest risk in this game isn't the market, it's your own psychology. Here's the test. Imagine Bitcoin drops 40% in a single week. You watch your allocation fall. Every instinct says, sell now, cut your losses, protect what's left. If that feeling would make you sell, your position is too large. This is non-negotiable. If the size of your Bitcoin position keeps you up at night, it's the wrong size. Period. Smart holders size their positions to survive their own emotions, not to maximize returns. Here's how to find your number. Ask yourself one question. What's the largest dollar amount I can watch disappear temporarily and still do nothing? Whatever that number is, that's your Bitcoin allocation. For most people in their 50s, that number is between 1 and 5% of their net worth. And that's perfectly fine. A smaller position you actually hold forever beats a larger position you panic sell in 3 weeks. Every single time. Now, knowing your size is only half the equation, because there's one rule about when to sell that almost nobody follows correctly. And breaking it is where most smart holders finally make their one critical mistake. Rule 3 is the hardest one to accept. The default is never sell, not hold for a while, not hold until it feels right. Never. Sell as a baseline assumption. I know that sounds extreme, but here's the math behind it. Bitcoin has recovered from every single drawdown in its history. Everyone. Some took months, some took years. But the recovery happened every time as of February 2026. Keep in mind, past performance is not indicative of future results, and we're seeing ongoing volatility right now. Now imagine you're holding Bitcoin at $100,000. It drops to $60,000. Every headline screams that it's over. That crypto is dead, and you sell. 6 months later, Bitcoin is back at $120,000. then 160,000. You didn't just lose 40%. You locked in a loss and permanently removed yourself from the recovery. That's not bad luck. That's a decision. And it's a decision that smart holders simply don't make. The default is hold. Always. The only exception, and there is one, is something I'll cover in Rule 4. But understand this first. Holding through volatility isn't a feeling. It's a strategy. It's the most powerful strategy available to you. And it requires almost nothing except the conviction to do what feels wrong. Rule 4 gives you the one specific trigger that actually justifies touching your Bitcoin. And it's not what you'd expect. It's a rule that turns you from a holder into a builder. So, when do you actually touch your Bitcoin? One condition, just one. When Bitcoin's growth causes it to exceed 9% of your total portfolio. That's it. That's the only trigger. If your Bitcoin allocation drifts from 3% to 9% because the price has surged, you rebalance. You trim back to 3%. You move the profit into your broader retirement machine. This isn't selling because you're scared. This is mechanical, strategic, emotionally neutral. You're not abandoning Bitcoin. You're harvesting its outperformance and spreading that gain across your entire wealth structure. Think about what this means in practice. Bitcoin runs up 300%. Your 3% allocation becomes 9%. You trim, you lock in real gains, you fund your other assets, and you still hold Bitcoin going forward. This is how independent thinkers actually profit from Bitcoin, not by guessing the top, but by letting a simple rule do the work for them. The emotion is removed, the decision is automated, and the wealth compounds quietly across your entire portfolio. But there's one final rule. And this one isn't about what you do while you're alive. It's about what happens to your Bitcoin after you're gone. And if you don't set this up, everything you've built could vanish overnight. Rule 5 is the one most people skip entirely, and it's the one that matters most. If you own Bitcoin, any amount, and you have no plan for what happens to it when you die, that Bitcoin disappears, not sold, not inherited, gone forever. This is not a hypothetical. It happens constantly. Wallets locked, keys lost, estates confused, billions of dollars in Bitcoin vanished. Smart holders don't leave this to chance. Here's what you do. You set up a secure, documented custody plan, a hardware wallet, a trusted executor who knows exactly where the keys are. Clear legal instructions, in writing, that survive you. This doesn't need to be complicated. It needs to be done. And here's why this matters beyond the obvious. When you build a legacy lock, you're not just protecting your Bitcoin. You're teaching the next generation how wealth is built. You're passing down not just an asset, but a framework, a way of thinking about money that most people never learn. That's the real inheritance. Not the coins, the strategy. If you followed all 5 rules, here's what your Bitcoin position looks like. Sized correctly, held with conviction, rebalanced on a simple trigger, and protected for the people who come after you. That's not a gamble, that's a machine. You came here because you wanted to know how to hold Bitcoin safely in your 50s, but what you actually learned is something bigger. You learned that Bitcoin isn't the point. The point is the structure around it, the discipline, the rules, the machine that turns a volatile asset into a stable compounding force inside your retirement. The 3% engine, the volatility tolerance, the never sell default, the rebalance trigger, the legacy lock, 5 rules. 1 framework, 0 guesswork. Most people will never build this. They'll keep treating Bitcoin like a coin flip, and they'll keep getting coin flip results. You're not most people. Subscribe, because every week I break down exactly how smart holders think, plan, and protect their wealth with no hype, no noise, and no nonsense. You're in the right place. Stay here.